Okay. All right. Welcome back to Beyond the Classroom with Professor Peachy. From lessons to life, real lessons, real people, real impact. Today, this episode is focusing on men who are game changers. This is a conversation driven show exploring the real lessons that people learn on their journey through life and work, the ones that are rarely taught in any classroom or any training manuals. I am Regina Lynette Brown, AKA Professor Peachy, your host, educator, entrepreneur, and author, founder of Backpacks to Briefcase Outreach. Today's conversation, we are changing lives, building leaders, and creating impact. We're focusing on young men who lead and thrive, how young men can lead and thrive in life, school, career, and community. Our guest today is none other than Dr. Dereck Barr. Yeah, I'm
Hello,
so
hello.
grateful for you. Welcome, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and glad to be here and be a part of this conversation.
Cool. So, for our viewers meeting you for the very first time, please introduce yourself. Tell us your name, your current role, and why you're passionate about helping young men to thrive.
Sure. My name is Dr. Dereck Barr-Pulliam, and I currently serve as a professor and director of the School of Accountancy at the University of Louisville. Um, My entire background is in accounting. Like I tell my students all the time, I have 3 degrees in accounting. So I
Hmm.
either love it a lot or I'm a nerd about it, or maybe it's both. But that's who I am. And
Mm-hmm.
I spent before I became a professor, I spent 7 years in corporate America, working, doing a number of different roles in accounting and auditing. And soon went to get my PhD after that. And I've been a professor now for this past May, made it full-time 12 years.
Wow, congratulations. I remember when. That is so
Yes,
awesome.
it goes quickly.
It does go quickly. We've been friends a long time.
Yeah, yeah,
That's cool. I didn't realize that you been promoted to director. Go ahead on.
yeah. I just finished year 2 of that.
That's cool. That is so awesome. I'm happy for you. And I also did forget you have a hyphenated name, so please forgive me.
No problem, no problem.
So our first question, when did someone believe in you before you believed in yourself? And who was that person? And how did that impact your life?
That's a really good question and something that I often think about. And there are 2 people that always come to mind when I'm
Hmm.
thinking about that question.
Hmm.
One is my father,
Okay.
and the other is my grandfather.
Okay.
My father was a single father, so I could stop right there, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
he automatically you think about him differently,
Hmm.
because you don't find a lot of single fathers that are raising
Right.
3 children.
Right.
Um,
Right. That's a lot.
he, yeah, he supported us as children and even into adulthood. We talk all the time about my daughter. And when she was born, he stayed with us for 6 months because we needed help.
Right.
So
Right.
he's always been that type of person to me.
Hmm.
Not only supporting me, but um, giving me confidence,
Hmm.
showing me what love and presence in a person's life looks like.
Hmm.
And that is something that has definitely shaped me.
Hmm.
And, him speaking possibility in my life from as early as I can remember. And that is something that I've certainly carried with me. And it gave me a really good foundation.
That's awesome. That is really amazing.
And he, I know, took that from his father, which I was
Hmm.
fortunate enough to have a really close relationship with as well.
Okay.
Um, my grandfather is an institution in his hometown.
Okay.
Um, while he didn't finish middle school,
Hmm.
he made sure that every one of his 10 children finished high
Okay.
school,
Okay.
and the expectation was his grandchildren were going to college. Like
Oh, awesome.
there was no question about that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of us didn't, but those of us who did, we knew what the expectations were, but we also knew that we had support.
That's
And
important.
the two of them certainly have shaped me deeply, given me
Mm-hmm.
confidence and perspective and a sense of legacy that I
Mm.
try to pass on to others.
That's cool. Yeah, he made it possible for everybody to go. So, it's, their opportunity to choose or not choose. But that's
Yeah.
awesome. That is really an amazing support system. What did you need as a young man that you felt that you didn't receive? And how has that shaped the man you are today?
As a young man, I think I needed more exposure and more direct guidance. And I'll tell you what
Okay.
I mean by that.
Okay.
I had lots of people in my life who loved me and believed in me, but I did not always have a roadmap for how to
Mm,
navigate certain spaces.
mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't always know, how professional systems worked or how
Okay.
to build networks or how to ask for help and even
Mm,
how to think more broadly about what life and my career could become. So
right.
even though I did really well in school and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people encouraged me towards healthcare, medicine, the top three. Um,
Right.
and while that could have been a meaningful path, I eventually
Mm-hmm.
realized that just wasn't, what my mission of
Mm-hmm.
service actually looked like.
Right.
And it was just that lack of experience from mentors and family around me growing
Mm-hmm.
up that I had to basically experience life and figure it out for myself. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because
Right.
I always say the best lessons are the ones that you have to learn.
Mm-hmm. The trial and error.
Yeah, yeah.
So you just said, okay, I'm gonna try this. Okay, no, that didn't work. I'm gonna try this, and that didn't work. And did you learn from those things?
Oh, certainly, certainly. I while I didn't necessarily have that direct guidance, I also am pretty observant
Mm-hmm.
and I observe how other people moved.
Okay.
And as I was able to enter different spaces, I'm, reading the room and
Right.
learning how to move. So maybe it took me a little longer to get to my destination.
Mm-hmm.
But I bring all those lessons with me.
I don't necessarily think of it as taking us longer because I don't think we're on a schedule per se. I
Right.
think I think we arrive when we're supposed to because we're supposed to bring the things that we learn
Yep. Yeah.
with us. And that's the part that most people I think miss because a lot of students tend to put that pressure on themselves that I'm this
Hmm.
age and I'm supposed to do this and I got this degree and I'm supposed to do that. And you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do at that time, whatever
Right.
that is.
I agree. And I do have to correct myself when I say that sometimes because
Mm-hmm.
I could not be who I am to the people that I need to be in this moment if I hadn't had that experience.
Right. That is so amazing. I feel exactly the same way. So that leads us to lessons learned. What habits, routines, or disciplines changed your life? And what would you encourage young men to start doing today?
For me, I believe it or not was a pretty shy kid growing up.
No.
And that was for a lot of reasons.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time in my head.
Okay.
So introspection, if I had to say anything that was a habit or a routine, it was always just thinking and rethinking about, my next move. So
Okay.
what looked like something risky as a decision to people was really a calculated risk.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
and that has served me well.
Mm-hmm.
It helps to be consistent and disciplined, which, I learned those things from my father, my grandfather, and others in my family and other people that were
Mm-hmm.
mentors.
Right.
Um, but with that said, I said I'm pretty much an introvert even now. Um,
Okay.
I know how to turn it on in when I'm in a group. But at the
It's a
end of the day,
learned thing.
it is. I'm back in my room at the end of a conference or
Hmm.
after
Hmm.
teaching,
Hmm.
and I'm with myself.
Right, right. That's their safety net.
Yes, for sure. But one of the things I'll say too that, especially when I'm thinking about the younger generations and even folks that I'm mentoring that even my age, is education became my way forward.
Hmm.
And that again was one of those constants. And I stayed consistent with what I knew could be
Hmm.
my key to the next phase of my life.
Hmm.
And in that, I was very disciplined in my focus on excellence.
Okay.
I will consistently talk about excellence being something that is a guiding principle. And
Hmm.
it's relative, it's objective for every
It
person,
is.
how
It
you
is.
define that.
I
But that's
agree.
what saved me and helped change the trajectory of my life. So when I'm talking to young people, I tell them, hey, listen, I encourage you to today visualize what the future version of yourself
Hmm.
is or what you want it to be. See that person very clearly and don't be afraid to pursue that vision of your future self with everything that you have.
That's good. You mentioned mentors in this. How important is that?
It mentors, um, it can be kind of cliche when we talk about mentors, like, oh yeah, I had this person that was my mentor. But
Hmm.
I like to think about them kind of in levels, right?
Okay.
Because you need different people for different things. So
We do.
you would hear some people say you need your own personal board of directors because
Yes.
you need someone who's going to be the sponsor, that's going to
Hmm.
speak up in rooms when you aren't there. You
Hmm.
also need someone who is going to introduce you to new opportunities, uh,
Hmm.
things that without that individual, you wouldn't be able to experience. So
Hmm.
again, when I talk about mentors and when I think about them, I think about filling all of the different places where I wouldn't necessarily say I'm deficient, but where I
Hmm.
need growth. And I need
Hmm.
someone to help me fill those spaces. And I have several mentors that help to do that.
That's true. I do too. I love it. We need mentors to help us fill those spaces that those gaps that we don't really know
Hmm.
how to do, how to navigate. That is
Yeah.
cool. Okay. So what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
So this is a good one too, because as I was talking earlier about my path taking longer,
Hmm.
maybe than what I would have expected, this is the advice that I do tell myself is, or my 18-year-old self, you're not behind,
Right, right,
you're not
right,
less than, just
right.
because your path looked differently than you anticipated, or importantly, what other people anticipated it would look like.
Mm-hmm.
So don't shrink yourself to make other
Mm-hmm.
people comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that made you feel different when you were younger might actually become your strength later in life.
Yes, I love that because as a kid, I was always taught, mom wouldn't let me get dirty, right? So, get
Hmm.
dressed for church or get dressed for school. The socks had to be this way and the skirt had to be that
Yep.
way and the ribbon had to be that way. And I had to come home the exact same way or I got in trouble. So when I'm
Right.
at school, you want to do this, you want to do that? Because I'm going to get dirty. I'm going to get this. And so they, label me.
Yep.
And so now it's like I have to carry myself as that example for somebody else to know, well, what does it look like to be in your role, or
Hmm.
how do you dress to go into the office, or how do you what, so it's not that you're presenting your perfect self, but you're representing yourself when you're out. And that was pretty
Yep.
much the lesson in that, right? Not so much as I
Yep.
don't want you to play and I'm being mean, but it was just, keep yourself together and always present yourself well. And so
Yeah.
yes, those lessons do they distinguish you, So I have this so hilarious fun story. So my dad was Snowfoot, and I love dad. So I was always under dad. So I started walking like dad.
Yeah.
Mom would fuss at me. No, straighten your feet up. She would kick my foot over. I'm gonna tie your legs together, so you won't walk like that.
Like,
But
mom, relax.
I thought she was so mean. It was like, okay. And so, fast forwarding about maybe 5 years ago, I was getting on the elevator with this lady. True story. I swear for beef stew. I'm getting on the elevator with this lady, and she was fabulous from the head to the ankles. I looked at her feet. She had on these bad shoes, but she was Snowfoot.
Yep.
Oh, I wanted to laugh so bad. And all I could do was say, well, thank you, mom. Thank you, mom. I see what this looks like.
I got it.
I
I got
got it.
it.
So, yes, those lessons do come back to make you even sharpen your saw even more, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, supporting young men. What's one misconception people have about young men today?
I want to speak specifically about young Black men,
Okay,
particularly just because, that's my lived experience. Um,
exactly.
but one misconception, particularly about them, is that they're disconnected,
Mm-hmm.
they don't care,
Mm-hmm.
and they lack direction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't believe that. I
I
mean,
don't either.
maybe for some people at their current station, one of those things might be true.
Right.
But the bigger thing is, this generation has so much access to the world in a way that
Mm-hmm.
my generation and certainly the ones before did
Mm-hmm.
not and couldn't
We did
even
not.
imagine, right?
That's true.
And I like to say that, I'm a Gen Xer. So
Okay.
we lived through major transformations like the mobile phone. Like my daughter is just befuddled that there was a world without a mobile phone, or even the early stages of the internet and what it is
Right.
right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of that is
Mm-hmm.
just transforming things, and young people have so much information and exposure at their
Mm-hmm.
fingertips.
You do.
But what I really know to be true about young Black boys in particular
Mm-hmm.
is they never cease to amaze me.
Mm-hmm.
They are becoming innovators at really, really
Yep.
young ages,
That's true.
and leaders who are thoughtful, they
Yep.
care, and they're deeply aware of the world around them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
whenever there's a boycott, right, it's the young
Mm-hmm.
folks leading
It
us and
is.
telling us
It
what to do,
is.
right?
It is. Yep.
And they don't need people to see them as problems that need to be
Right.
solved.
Right.
They need people to see their full humanity and help
Yes.
them turn any exposure that they have into something that is a talent or wisdom. Show them
Right.
what discipline actually looks like.
Right.
And all of that is possible.
It is. I totally agree. I mean, the body language alone kind of does that, but then some of that
Hmm.
is learned from our neighborhoods, right? And what we see and how we grow up and the
Hmm.
things. But it does not define the individual, right?
Yeah.
And I think what gets lost is that individuality because we're all grouped together,
Hmm.
and what's true
Hmm.
about one person, they make it true about everybody, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
And so it's just finding a way for me in my class is finding a way to connect with them. Once I get
Hmm.
them in my office, are we good? We can
Yeah.
have that candid conversation, but getting
But
them to my
can we
office,
get you to the office,
getting
please?
them in the office, because you don't want them to feel singled out, but it's like, bro, I need to talk to you,
Right. We
and
need to talk
so,
about this
mm-hmm,
now.
and so without them feeling like they're in a hot seat or something is wrong, it's like, no, let me show you a different way,
Hmm.
right? And so, yeah, just getting them to listen. So, young Black men that are listening to this podcast, hear us clearly. We love you and we see you and we recognize all
Hmm.
your potential. So, do come to us so that
Please,
we can help you.
please.
Okay. So, how do we teach young men confidence without creating ego or entitlement?
Oh, that's a really interesting question, and something that I try to be very thoughtful about
Mm-hmm.
because I think there's a fine line
Mm-hmm.
between confidence, ego, and entitlement. Like all three of those, they
Yep,
all can coexist, right?
they can. Mm-hmm.
Because confidence to me is knowing that you're worthy of every opportunity in every
Mm-hmm.
space that you enter, right?
Yep,
And you need that as you
you
move.
do. You do.
So young men, especially young black men, they need to know that they belong in the room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But where that line starts to get blurred a bit is when that ego or entitlement is related to a lack of preparation
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or a lack of being able to show the substance or your character once you've arrived in those spaces.
Yes.
We talked a little bit about mentors earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
somebody may have opened the door for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could have been
Mm-hmm.
they sponsored you or they helped you somehow get in that room.
Right.
But your talent and your character have to be able to keep you there.
That's true.
And that's what, again, like I said, that line starts to become a little bit blurred is, oh, well, I deserve to be here. Yes, you do. Now that you're here, what do you have to say?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What can you bring
Right?
to the table? What can you
Yeah, I mean,
contribute?
I've always lived by a quote. I don't even remember who said it to me the first time, but it is, Lord, please don't let my talent take me where my character cannot keep me.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That is
And that
awesome.
that's a guiding principle. I mean, maybe it was something my grandfather said, or I don't know, but wherever I found it, it stuck with me. And
Mm-hmm.
that I think is kind of the essence of that question about that confidence, ego, entitlement, all of that kind of wrapped in one.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I'm writing it down. That's a good one. Okay. What role should fathers, father figures, and male mentors play in a young man's development today?
Well, I started off the conversation talking about my father and my grandfather.
Right.
Um, And I think quite frankly and honestly, there is no substitute for
Mm,
the confidence and care that fathers, father figures, male mentors, all of the above in how they can mentor and model behavior for young men.
mm-hmm.
Um, I can remember in high school, my band directors, assistant principal, Mr. Reese, shout out to Mr. Reese, um, who helped guide me, corrected
Mm-hmm.
me when I needed to be corrected in a way that was
Mm-hmm.
seeing me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
just hard, like I said, there's no substitute for that. I mean, others can do it, but there's no substitute for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can even think about in college, icons like Dr. Donald Cold, who is an institution at the University of Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and all of my professors who even to this day continue to check in on me and say, hey, I noticed you were doing this and you were doing that. Do you
Right.
need help with this?
Mm-hmm.
Michael Clement, which
Mm-hmm.
and Mark Dawkins,
Mm-hmm.
all of those individuals, while they're not my fathers, they still they are fathers themselves, right?
Right. Right.
And it is taking that experience and being able to share it with others and
Mm-hmm.
to, bring the next generation along.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of mentorship and relationship is just so crucial. And young men just need it.
Mm-hmm.
And they need
I
to be able to
agree.
see it up close.
I agree. I totally agree. Yes, those, it's funny because it's something that's organic. You can't pick it for yourself, right?
Hmm.
And I know from a female perspective, I can tell when that person is really trying to help me versus,
Hmm.
hinder. They may be a little stern, or as they used to call it, tough love with
Yes.
you, because they're going to be very direct because they want the best for you. They see your potential, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I think for the young men, it's just a matter of, from the previous question, setting the ego aside and actually hearing and seeing what this person is trying to express to them,
Hmm.
and no, this person isn't picking on you. Somebody else may have, but this person's actually giving you something solid that you can chew. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and some of that too is on the mentor, right? To set
Mm-hmm.
their ego aside,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
that's part of the organic nature of those relationships is if you can't turn that off, then
Yes,
you're not the one. Like
that's true.
let somebody else do it.
Right. That's true. Because everybody can't. Okay. So we know everybody is an expert at their craft, but everybody can't teach it. Right.
100%. That literally is what I was telling my daughter earlier today. I was like, if you can explain it and
Mm-hmm.
teach it to somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
number one, you know it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And two, you are much more influential and people, they believe what you're talking about because it comes
Yes,
out as confidence.
it does. It does. Cool beans. So let's move into career and life readiness. What professional skill or life skill do you believe every young man should develop before entering the workforce?
Now, this one I really love because it's something that, even just thinking about my own trajectory and my maturation to this place where I am right now. Um, and the one skill, if I had to pick any, I would say is they need to be able to develop presence.
Mm, that's
Now,
good.
what do I mean by that? So I
Mm-hmm.
mean the kind of confidence where when you enter the room, people
Mm-hmm.
notice.
Mm-hmm.
And when you leave, they
They
notice that
notice.
too,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? But it's not about being the loudest person in the room.
It's not.
It's just about being intentional with how you show up and
Mm-hmm.
you deciding what you want people to feel when you enter the space, whether it's a classroom, the workplace, a meeting, community setting, it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah,
That is the thing, because that is also the one gift that you have that you offer other people is your presence.
that's so true. And I think we've been talking about young black men. If if they would embody that, it would shift the trajectory of perception everywhere.
Hmm. Yeah,
It only takes a few. And if a few more than what do it now would continue to do that, it would just totally shift and things may change more, you know?
yeah. Well, and part of that too is um in building your own confidence, being able to treat people how to treat you.
Yes, I love
Right.
it.
So,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's not going to be happy that you came in the room, but
Right,
they need to respect you.
right.
Right. They're
Mm-hmm.
certainly not going to affirm that you belong there,
They're
but
not.
you need to remember that you are worthy of being there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, command respect through your preparation,
Mm-hmm.
character, right, and
Mm-hmm.
excellence. I told you I was going to say excellence
You
again.
did. You did. I see that's part of your lesson every day.
Yes,
I need you
it
to
is.
do this with excellence, please. I
Please.
love it.
Thank you.
Okay. What is one financial lesson that you wish you had learned earlier in life?
You know, I will have to say it is about your relationship with money.
That's good.
Um, and that's something that I'll say, maybe the last 15 or so years that I really kind of thought about more deeply.
Mm-hmm.
Working with my financial planner and just some other folks. And one in particular, that's something she said. She was like, when I was growing up, because we didn't have a lot,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
my relationship with money was not healthy.
Right.
No one modeled like what does it mean to have a long-term financial plan or to
Mm-hmm.
think about your well-being in a, on a long, from a long-term perspective?
Right.
Um, And it's so true because how you think about money is how you're going to manage it
Mm-hmm.
and the
Mm-hmm.
choices that you are willing to make.
That's true. Yeah, I've always heard from outside people, live below your means.
Hmm.
Um, Parents never really discussed it. I think they thought they modeled it, but because I wasn't really allowed in their business, I didn't really know.
Right, right. Stay in your business. Get out of grown
Stay in
folk
your
business.
lane, get out of girl folks' business. So I didn't really know, they just knew that they had solidified and that would be a no.
Right. Yeah.
But I would hear people say, stay within your means. It's like, well, what does that mean? And so for me, it was a life lesson. It was something I had to learn trial and error, right?
Hmm.
Um, And so I think most people kind of fall into that. So just hearing this early, and then back to what you said earlier, there's so much information in their hand, in this
Hmm.
phone. And there's so many ways that they could learn some of these things that we're sharing with them
Hmm.
sooner on their own, right?
Yeah.
And then that's another mentor you can have. You can have a mentor whose expertise is finances,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you can
'Cause
get those questions answered.
you're not going to get it all in one person.
No,
As
you got to
much as
have
we would
many.
love that, that's part of the
Yes,
work is
that
to
is.
build that board of directors.
Yes. And that's what an S on is. So that's more than one person.
Yes.
Okay. How can young men discover their purpose when they feel uncertain about their future?
You know, a lot of when I think about, what is my purpose in life?
Mm-hmm.
It's something that you just have to figure out through movement, not
Mm.
just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Um, so you can't just sit still and just think your way into clarity. Like
Right.
that's not how it works, right? You gotta
Mm-hmm.
actually do something. My grandfather would always say, put your hand on something. And I was like, what are you talking about? But what he really meant is you got to go out and try something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ask questions, take
Mm-hmm.
risks, right?
Yep.
If there's an opportunity, take it and pay
Mm-hmm.
attention to what keeps pulling at you
Yes.
because that pull is what your purpose is, right? Because I thought that my purpose may have been in healthcare or medicine, right?
Okay.
Part of it was because that was the path that people thought that I should take.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, what I really realized is that my deeper calling was service, right?
Yes.
And you say, well, you're an accounting professor and you're a director in a school of accountancy. Like, how do you even mesh all of those together into service? Well, it's quite simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
My job is to help people blaze their own trails,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And how that shows up is through education, mentoring, leadership,
Yep.
modeling,
Mm-hmm.
mentorship, right? And building opportunities for other people. So if you
That's
feel
cool.
uncertain as a young person, I will immediately say, okay, pump the brakes, don't panic,
Mm-hmm.
right? Start with what you know.
Mm-hmm.
What are you good at?
Mm-hmm.
What problems do you actually care about?
Right.
And what do you naturally want to do, as in a helping profession or just in general? What is it that you want to do?
Mm-hmm. What do you see yourself doing? Because you
Yeah,
you said that earlier to visualize what it is that you
yeah,
see yourself doing. So when they look at that, then what does that look like?
yeah. And you don't have to know the end game,
Right.
right? You just need a vision.
Mm-hmm. You need a place to start.
Yeah,
That's good. And the rest will figure itself out.
it will. Get those good mentors.
Right. And get your trial and error stick out because it's gonna happen.
Please. And be okay with it.
Yes, give yourself grace.
Yes.
Okay. So going into the next phase, what does being a game changer mean to you?
Big question, really big.
Okay.
Um, and I had to ask myself, I was like, well, are you a game changer? And if so, what does that really mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, And I think part of it is when life is lifing,
Right?
you are just trying to keep it moving, keep
Mm-hmm.
growing, keep doing the work, keep doing
Mm-hmm.
all the things that are in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll go back to something I said earlier too. I spend a lot, even now. I mean, maybe that makes me a good professor and a good researcher is because I reflect a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Spend a lot of time in my head. And, I can see places where I've had an impact on
Mm-hmm.
others.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, changing the game just means walking boldly into that purpose. Now that I'm kind of figuring out what that is and
Right.
lifting other people as I'm climbing toward that purpose. And that's how you change the game, is because you're bringing other people with you, not just
Right.
lifting yourself up so they can see you on a pedestal, because
Right.
it's very lonely up there.
It is.
So bring other people along.
I love it. So that kind of models after Napa's motto, lifting as we climb.
Yep.
And I love that you reflect. Do you journal?
I do. I do.
Okay.
And that's again, talking to the young bucks out there.
Mm,
You have a phone that can do a lot of things.
that's true. If
And
you have nothing else.
I mean, and if you don't like to write with your fingers or with your hands, you can do voice notes. So I do a combination of all of those things just to write down thoughts, and I have them all together in a file.
That's awesome. Yeah, I introduced journaling to the students and every semester. And so it was very refreshing by the end of the semester. I didn't even have to tell them to write down their thoughts after we kind
Hmm.
of had the moment. And it was really even way cooler to see the guys kind of like immediately like, I was like, oh, y'all
Yeah,
got on board. So
yeah.
I think exposing them to things you do and
Hmm.
sharing that benefit gets them to see, oh, there is something to it's not a girl thing, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's
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 okay
a
to be in your feelings, right?
right, right. It is
Everybody
okay.
needs to get in there.
It is right. So we can analyze them and they not consume you.
Right.
Put them in their proper place.
Yeah. And sometimes journaling is the only way in your current environment that you can get that out, whatever
That is
those
so
feelings are.
true. So that you can still show up and that with your great character.
Yeah,
I get it. I get it. That's wonderful. I hope y'all getting this. Journal your feelings.
please.
Okay. What is one thing every young man should know before he graduates high school or college that is typically not taught?
I think it's really important that either explicitly or implicitly, you're always taught that you need to have a plan,
That's
right?
good. Mm-hmm.
And plan actually is a simple word, but it's actually a very complex word because
It
that
is.
what that means is you don't necessarily need to know like how am I going to get from point A to Z. You just need to know that you're going somewhere. So you have something to
Exactly.
work towards,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, Work towards that plan and figure out too, what type of person are you trying to become?
Mm.
Right? Who do you want to be? I don't always like to reflect on death, but people often, older folks will say, what do you want people to say about you when you're no
Mm-hmm.
longer here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what you're doing over from the time you're born until the time you die. So living on a dash, they say,
Mm-hmm.
you are trying to build the narrative around what you want people to remember about you when you're no
Mm-hmm.
longer here.
It's amazing because not talking about death, but talking about death is the one thing people don't ever want to talk about, but it's the one thing that is certain, right? And the thing about it is we don't know when that is.
Right.
And so my great nephew was only 20 I think he was turning 21 that year, when he passed.
Mm-hmm.
And what made me proud as a great aunt sitting in his service was he had joined he was in college. He was in Kentucky, and he joined a academic fraternity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or of some sort. And they created, like, I'm gonna call it a Medal of Honor, but they've created an award of
Mm-hmm.
honor that modeled his character. And I was just like peacock proud that in this short span of life, he has a legacy in his
Mm-hmm.
name that says, this is how every young man should model themselves, right?
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, this is phenomenal. There are people that live, to be decades older than that, and
Yes.
still are not recognized for
Ain't
their
nothing even
character.
close. Yeah.
Mm-mm. So I think it's something to find for yourself. Find out, like you said, who you want to be. Who are you? What's your character? What are people going to say about you when you're not in the room? Early,
Mm-hmm.
like define that for yourself, and set everything in motion to be that thing,
Yeah.
because we don't know.
Nope.
It's such an unknown.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
But
and another thing that I will often tell young folks and older folks is that purpose, or that thing that you're working towards,
hmm
it's going to change,
it
right?
is.
Or it will be refined,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that is okay too. So
Right.
be okay with the uncertainty, but just stay focused. Right? That's the main thing, is keep your focus on something.
Mm-hmm. Don't get distracted. And when they're gonna come, distractions are, yeah,
Yeah.
they're gonna
Yeah.
come, but don't let them stay
Right.
or derail you.
That board of directors is going to help pull you back.
That's true. That is so true. Because they know the goal, they know the end goal,
Yep. And they know you.
and they know you. Okay, so I know. Oh, that's funny. And you know yourself, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, you were tripping when you were tripping. So,
Hmm.
just give yourself some grace, pause, and keep moving.
Let's get the train back on the track.
Yep. Love it. With that being said, what final message would you like to leave for the young men who are listening today?
Oh, the one thing that if they don't remember anything else that we talk about,
Mm-hmm.
I certainly want them to understand and to believe and conceptualize that they are worthy of whatever future they imagine.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
But you got to prepare for it, right? So you don't have to think about or get stuck in where you started, what your
Mm-hmm.
circumstances are, what people have called you, or whatever limits they've placed on your life
Mm-hmm.
or tried to place on your life.
Mm-hmm.
You see the future version of yourself very clearly and pursue him with discipline, courage, and consistency.
Love it. Discipline, courage, and consistency. I love it. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, before we go, where can listeners connect with you? Are you on LinkedIn? You got
I am.
email?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me just by my name, Dereck Barr-Pulliam. You can email me. I mentioned earlier I'm at the University of Louisville, and my email address is D as in David, zero, B as in boy, ARR, the number 01. It's Don't ask me why it's all those zeros, at louisville.edu. But being at a public university, if you put in my name in Google, you will
Mm-hmm.
find out everything you want to know about me and probably even more.
Isn't that cool to be Google abo?
Oh, I have to do it myself every now and again just to see what people are seeing out there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, it was not a thing. Like it totally
it
wasn't a
wasn't.
thing in my era. And I know, you coming behind me wasn't one either. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's like you can find me on Google. Huh? Please.
yeah,
That's cool. Well, thank you, Dr. Dereck Barr-Pulliam, for your time and for sharing your journey and for the impact you're making in young men's lives.
yeah. I am grateful for the opportunity to be here and continue the great work that you're doing with the podcast and just in general.
Thank you so much. Whether you are fathers, mentors, educators, coaches, or community leaders, young men need examples of what's possible. This conversation matters because representation, guidance, and encouragement can change lives. Young men, I hope you've gained some insight from today's episode of Beyond the Classroom with Professor Peachy, men who are game changers, changing lives, building leaders, and creating impact. Thank you so much for watching and we hope that you have learned something new.